Let's talk about something that might sound boring at first, but is actually one of the most important issues facing our country today, the U.S. national debt. It's a topic that affects every American, whether you realize it or not, and it's only getting bigger. Imagine the United States as someone with a massive credit card, one that gets swiped for everything from military jets to social security checks, highways, and even disaster relief. The promise is always to pay later. But here's the thing, Biden's later their answer. A mind there it this too, a name deed, beam. And the bill has arrived. As of 2025, the US owes over $38 trillion. That's a 3 and 8 and 12 zeros, an amount so huge it's almost impossible to picture. It's more than the value of all the goods and services America produces in a year. And instead of shrinking, the debt keeps growing. This year alone, we're adding another $1.8 trillion to the pile. That's like stacking another mountain of bills on top of an already sky-high peak. It's a bit like maxing out every credit card you own, then deciding to splurge on a yacht anyway, hoping you'll figure out how to pay for it later. The national debt is what happens when the government spends more than it collects in taxes. To cover the gap, it borrows money by selling treasury bonds, essentially IOUs that promise to pay back with interest. Now, our total debt is bigger than the entire US economy. Our debt to GDP ratio is flashing red, warning us that we're in risky territory. Economists and policymakers are sounding the alarm. And those interest payments? They're starting to get very, very real, costing us hundreds of billions each year, money that could have gone to schools, roads, or healthcare. The debt isn't just a number, it's a growing burden we all share. How did we rack up this bill? It's a question that leaves a lot of people scratching their heads, staring at the numbers and wondering how things got so out of hand. The answer isn't simple, but it's not a total mystery either. It wasn't just one wild shopping spree. It was decades of choices, with tax cuts and spending binges stacked on top of each other, year after year. Imagine a timeline where every few years, someone decides to splurge a little more, or cut back on what's coming in. Tax cuts in the 2000s, and again, in 2017 meant less money flowing into the government's bank account, but the urge to spend never really slowed down. The bills kept coming, and the receipts just got longer. Wars in Iraq and Afghanistan cost trillions, and then came the Great Recession, which demanded huge bailouts and stimulus packages. Fast forward to COVID-19, and the relief efforts added even more to the tab, trillions more in fact. Meanwhile, Social Security and Medicare costs are ballooning as more Americans retire and live longer than ever before. The programs that once seemed manageable are now straining under the weight of a growing, aging population. The math is simple. More people are drawing benefits, while fewer workers are paying into the system. It's like a piggy bank that's being emptied faster than it's being filled. And new laws, like the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, keep adding trillions more to the pile. Every time Congress passes a new program or benefit, the debt meter ticks up. Every crisis, every new program, every refusal to cut back, our debt just keeps climbing, step by step, year after year. It's a staircase that never seems to end, and through it all, there's never been a real, concrete plan to pay it back. The bills pile up, but the solutions always seem to get pushed to tomorrow. It's like asking for a credit limit increase to buy a jet ski when you're already maxed out, except, in this case, the jet ski is the size of a battleship, and the bill just keeps growing. Who do we owe all this money to? The answer might surprise you. It turns out, the biggest lender to the US government is actually us. That's right, most of our national debt is owed to ourselves, not to some mysterious foreign power. American investors, pension funds, and even the government's own trust funds hold a huge chunk of US debt. When you think about Social Security, government worker pensions, and retirement accounts, all of these are major buyers of treasury bonds. So, in a way, the government is borrowing from future retirees and workers. Every time you or your retirement fund buys a treasury bond, you're essentially lending money to Uncle Sam. It's a way for regular Americans to invest in the country, while also helping the government pay its bills. But it's not just Americans. Foreign countries are also big players. They hold about $9 trillion in US debt. While China used to be the top foreign lender, its share has been shrinking. Now, Japan and the UK, have taken the lead as the largest foreign holders of U.S. Treasury bonds. In fact, the percentage of U.S. debt held by foreigners has dropped significantly over the past decade, from about 50% to just over 30%. That means more of our debt is now held domestically by Americans and American institutions. But here's the catch. If global investors start to get nervous about America's ability to pay back its debts, we'll have to offer higher interest rates to convince them to keep buying our bonds. That could make borrowing much more expensive for the government, and when interest payments go up, a bigger slice of the federal budget gets eaten up by debt payments, leaving less money for things like schools, roads, and national defense. Our reputation as a safe bet is starting to crack. Investors are beginning to question whether U.S. debt is as rock solid as it once was, and that uncertainty can have real consequences. If trust in America's ability to pay erodes, borrowing gets a lot more expensive, and that's a risk we can't afford to ignore. Why does this matter? Because interest payments are eating our budget alive. In 2024, we spent $880 billion just on interest, more than on Medicare. By 2035, it could hit $1.8 trillion a year, money that does nothing for roads, schools, or science. Every dollar to interest is a dollar not spent on real needs. Social Security and Medicare are at risk as debt grows and pressure to cut spending rises. The trust that makes the dollar the world's currency isn't infinite. Our credit rating has already been downgraded 3 times. If investors lose faith, they'll demand higher rates or stop lending, triggering a crisis. That could make 2008 look like a hiccup. The clock is ticking. We're in a deep hole. What now? There are only 2 real options: spend less or bring in more money, or both. Spending less means tough choices, reforming Social Security, Medicare, defense, and more. Bringing in more means raising taxes, on corporations, the wealthy, or everyone. Both options are politically toxic, but necessary. Most economists recommend a balanced approach, modest cuts and moderate tax increases, phased in over time. The longer we wait, the harder it gets. This isn't a partisan problem, it's a math problem, and right now, we're failing the test.